Welcome to Q&A practice. We will start out with the plaintiff attorney. Ready? Here we go. Can you remember all 970 items of evidence that were seized? No, I can't. Mr. Buting asked you if knowing that Mr. Link and Mr. Colburn was involved in a deposition, whether or not you would assign them to search responsibilities. Do you remember that question? Yes, I do. Do you remember answering yes to that question? Yes. Do you have an explanation for that answer? Yes. What is that explanation? My explanation is if they told me that, I would have asked them what the circumstances surrounding that were. Upon them telling me and what I know now of those circumstances to be, I know there was no direct conflict of interest with those two individuals. They weren't working when he was charged and convicted on the original charge. And when they got deposed, Mr. Colburn was a jailer in that jail, and he received a call from another jail that an anonymous person said something about them having the wrong person in jail, and they have the right one. Didn't identify who it was, what it was about. Mr. Colburn did the right thing and forwarded that phone call to the Detectives Bureau. Mr. Colburn was not even a sworn officer. Mr. Link wasn't even a detective at the time. He was working the road. That call went up to the Detective Bureau and was handled by whoever was up there at that time. And then when Mr. Avery was exonerated, Mr. Colburn made a comment to Mr. Link, something to the effect that, boy, I wonder if that call they took way back when was Mr. Avery. They had nothing to do with this. So that, as far as you know, was Link and Colburn's connection, this mysterious connection to this civil lawsuit. Is that right? Yes. Knowing that, as you sit here today, as the lead investigator in this case, have any problems at all with Link or Colburn's involvement in this case? Absolutely not. Do you know how many law enforcement officers, how many citizens, and how many other witnesses were deposed as part of that lawsuit? No, I don't. Finally, Agent Fassbender, whenever a Manitowoc County Sheriff's deputy was asked to assist in this entire investigation, that is, when any search was done out at the scene, were they accompanied by a Calumet County or state DCI agent? Yes, that's all the redirect I have, Judge. Any recross, Mr. Buting? Just a bit. Now, you weren't deposed in this civil lawsuit yourself, right? That's correct. You had nothing to do with it. You were a truly independent, objective investigator at that scene? Yes. Okay. Link and Colburn, though, were deposed about their own conduct in 1995 regarding a phone call that might have resulted in Mr. Avery spending 8 more years in prison because of the way they handled it. Right? I believe the way they handled it was correct. Well, what you believe, sir, isn't really the issue. The question is what they believe. And I can't speak to what they believed. That's right, you can't. Thank you. The point of the matter is also that neither one of them told you about this connection. You can take that or leave it on for a minute. Neither one of them told you that they had been witnesses in a civil lawsuit, did they? That's correct. And both of them volunteered to go search Mr. Avery's residence, didn't they? I don't know if they volunteered or they were asked, but they did it. All right, they did though. Yes, yeah, and both of them knew, or you could tell us if you thought that they knew, that their boss had already found enough of a conflict or appearance of conflict with Mr. Avery's lawsuit to turn over authority to a neighboring county. they knew that? I would assume they knew that. Okay, and with that knowledge, they still didn't say, oh, hey, by the way, we should tell you about this deposition that we both had 3 weeks earlier, did they? Objection asked and answered 3 times now, Judge. I'm going to sustain the objection. All right, you recall my questions to you about whether any items linked to Teresa Halbach was whether any physical evidence linked her inside his trailer or garage, right? Possibly. I don't remember if it was physical evidence or not. All right. This bill of sale has no date. Could have been any time, right? Correct. The phone number for Teresa Halbach being in his residence is certainly not a surprise because we know from the records that he had her phone number and had called and arranged a sale just a few weeks earlier, right? Objection, argumentative, Judge. The question was whether there was anything that linked Teresa Halbach to that trailer. That was your question. That was not my question. Well, at this time, it was not my understanding that the subject matter was the strength or probative value of the evidence, but rather just whether any evidence had been seized. I'm not sure where we're going. Okay, none of those 4 prospective exhibits ever show that Teresa was inside the trailer, do they? No. Thank you, that's all I have. That's evidence that Bobby provided, isn't that right? That's correct. That's all I have. Thank you, Judge. I object. Move to strike the question and the answer because it's not the testimony. Bobby Dassey never said he saw her in the trailer. I'm not sure I understood the question. The question that's being objected to. That was a clear inference on counsel's question, if not the direct. I'm going to sustain the objection. I think it's beyond the scope of redirect. Witness is excused. Mr. Kratz will let the state get started on the next witness. If you would like, Judge, we will call Mr. Brand to the stand. The jurors may stand up and stretch if you wish before the next witness takes the stand. Please raise your right hand. Please be seated. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record. William Brand, Jr., B-R-A-N-D. Mr. Brand, thank you very much for coming. And can you tell the jurors, please, from what community you come? Brillion, Wisconsin. And I think everybody knows where Brillion is, but in case they don't, tell the jurors where Brillion is located, right near the Manitowoc-Calumet border, right in Calumet County, about 15 miles from here. Mr. Brand, on the 8th of November in 2005, were you asked, and did you in fact participate in a volunteer search of the Avery Salvage Yard? Yes, I did. And in what capacity did you assist in that search? I was with a group of state troopers and other volunteer firemen, I believe, searching a search section of the Avery junkyard. Were you assigned or paired up with somebody? I don't know about paired up, but there was a group of maybe 10 of us, maybe a few more. Were there, again, from what organization were you volunteering? The Brillion Fire Department. Were there any sworn law enforcement officers in your group? Yes, the Wisconsin State Troopers were with us. All right, and again, about how many people were in your search team? Roughly 10, maybe a few more. Do you know about how many volunteer or firefighter and law enforcement searchers were involved on the 8th? Quite a few, not offhand. Okay, what were your responsibilities that day? What did you do? We were just given a section to search and search every vehicle very thoroughly around it and see if there was anything that looked out of place or might seem suspicious. And we were also instructed that they were looking for certain items, what the victim had been wearing, a certain shirt and jeans, that might be that, and license plates they were looking for. And there was some, I think that was about it. All right. Did you assist and did you help perform searches of these vehicles? Yes. Tell the jury what kind of searches these were. How did you search the vehicles? You just slowly go over each vehicle, and there were multiple people going over them. Go inside them. If you didn't get the trunk open, some of them they pried the trunk open, or you just looked through them real good. Anything like clothing or something, you actually took it out and probably handled it. Looked around, looked under stuff if you could, just to find out what you could find. All right, and that will conclude our Q&A practice.